Ayman Khan here for Seconds Out at the Eastside Boxing Gym with one of the busiest men in boxing, Jon Pegg. Jon, sir, how you doing?
Yeah, good, Ayman. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad at all. One of the busiest men. You've got a lot on right now. Talk us through what's happening.
We've got our first show of the year at Solihull Ice Rink. We're doing the first Grassroots prize fighter. We've got 8 unbeaten lads, all going up against each other. There's a 20 grand prize pot to be shared out amongst them, which, you know, for a small show is decent. Got 3 lads on the undercard. Niall Berry, SK Showstopper from London, who we're putting on for Max McCracken, and Dylan Norman, who's managed and trained by Wayne Alcock, who's a local lad. We are really looking forward to that. It's going to be a bit different. We've took a chance, but the lads have responded great and they're really enjoying it. And they're enjoying. We've done a press conference, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that starts the year with a bang. We're going big at the ice rink. We've secured the ice rink for 4 dates this year because it's a great venue. They're allowed 4 dates on their licensing thing, and we've got all 4 dates. So we're going to be back there 3 more times. We have then got a big show in Coventry, 12-fight show, getting all our Coventry, Leamington, Nuneaton lads out. You know, so it hasn't really got a top of the bill, but we've got some names on there such as Musa Moyo, Joe Sheriff, Ashley Eels, River Wilson Bent, who are all capable of topping the bill. And we'll probably just see who gets the most interesting fight, who's like the head of the card. But it's a 12-fight show, it's really good. We're doing a show in conjunction with DNA Gym, because I manage Anthony from DNA Gym's lads, and he's basically got a show full of lads now, a gym full of lads now. So he's doing his own show, but me and Tommy Owens are working with him to bring it along. We're doing it in conjunction with him. That's March the 25th. Then I've started doing the matchmaking and working really in deep with Scott Murray, who's bringing back the small circuit sportsman shows in a big way. Scott puts on a great legend show, and he's bringing these back with a bit of pizzazz, a little bit highbrow. Sam Eggington is going to headline the first show. Niall Farrell, who is a former GB international, European silver medalist, as well as many, many other accolades. He's making his debut on that show. Niall Berry, the exciting featherweight from Birmingham, who everyone's avoiding, is a nightmare to match. He's boxing on it. And Lewis Howells, a young lad who's a former Welsh international, he's boxing on it. So it's a talent-packed show for Scott's first one. And he's looking to do 6 or 8 of these shows a year. So that's going to keep the lads busy as well. And then basically we're just planning the next quarter then. Like I say, we've got the Coventry show and the ice rink show planned for the next quarter, but we've got to plan the small shows to make sure everyone stays active and make sure if there's any gaps that we can fill them in. So it's interesting. We're waiting for the lads who are a bit higher up the food chain to get some dates from Sky or whoever's can offer fights who can match what they need. But fair play, the lads such as Kaisee Benjamin, Shakan Pitters, River, Sam, they're happy to stay active on smaller shows. There's no egos with them. They know an active fighter is a good fighter. Yeah. So like River and Sam are on 2 of the shows. We're looking for a spot for Kaisee that works. Shaq's actually got a date almost penciled in, so he's okay at the moment. But yeah, it's just staying busy and getting things done where we can.
A lot on your hands there, Jon. You're going to be a busy person in the first quarter. I'm sure you've already been in these preceding weeks. But yeah, let's start with Sam, someone who went over the other side of the world, and it was a losing effort for him. A good experience, no doubt. But a lot of people like Sam. They want to see Sam back up because he brings exciting fights. You mentioned there he's going to be back on that show. What type of fight is he going to be in?
He's just going to have a kind of marking time 6-rounder just to get him going. It's a small dinner show. We can't ask for too much, but no, he went over to Australia, and people who know Sam, he's very much a family man. He got extremely homesick, and it affected his performance. You know, you only have to look at the stats, and you can see it affected his performance. Sam averages over 1,000 punches per fight when we do his punch stats. He threw around 400 in that fight. It just was, no disrespect to Dennis. He'd done his job, got the win, but it would have been a different game over here. He didn't want to be in Australia. He didn't like being away from his family. He didn't like it at all. And it reflected in the performance. And now he's raring to go and wants to show people that was just, as he's had before, just a little blip. But, you know, he's turned 29 now, so he's had an 11-year career. So we might be looking at the last year or two of his career. So he's got to enjoy it. He's done everything he wanted to do. So we just want him to enjoy the last, like, kind of the last year or two, maybe even 3 years if he really wants to. But we just got to see what happens. And, you know, I don't think there's any current 2-time Fight of the Year winners in Britain. That's what Sam brings to the table. He brings honesty, he brings exciting fights, and people know what they're getting. No excuses, no, you know. Like, I've made an excuse about Australia, but it is what it is. He weren't the same person. He didn't throw the same amount of punches. He didn't, you know. But you take the fight, you go over there. Fair play to the other guy, but now it's up to him to show what he's got left in the locker, and I think he will. So we'll get this one out of the way to get him started, and then see what offers come. And there's bound to be one. Like I say, there's no current 2-time Fight of the Year winners out there. They'd have to drag Jamie Moore out of retirement to get someone who's done that kind of stuff. I think there's only Jamie who's won it more. So, and he's been retired a long time. So Sam's the only guy out there who's bringing that kind of excitement.
Now, leading up to Dalton Smith versus Kaisee Benjamin, you told me that Kaisee was one of the best kept secrets in boxing, and he really proved himself in that fight against Dalton Smith. Sure, he didn't get the victory, but on Sky Sports, that platform, a lot of people, you really piqued their interest there. That secret's now out. Yeah. Has there been interest from boxers to get him back on a card?
There's been talk. Whether that turns into something, we don't know. But, you know, we got to find fights for Kaisee. Basically, he's too good to sit around. And yeah, there's been talk, because how can, you know, when you get someone who's meant to be the next big thing in boxing, which Dalton, I think, will win a world title, and Kaisee pushes him closer than anyone else has, you know, let's see what he does with a few fights under his belt. Kaisee needed a few championship fights under his belt to take on Dalton. He'd had a series of blowouts. You're blowing people out, what can you do? To fight someone of Dalton's calibre, you really need some tough 10-rounders, 12-rounders even under your belt. Now he's got one under his belt.
Just picking that back up there, John, you were mentioning Kaisee and his prospects of getting onto a big show and what lies ahead for him.
Yeah, I think not just getting on a big show, I think it's about a big promoter picking him up and giving him all the coverage, because in the last fight, Dalton was the star, even though he was Eddie's guy. Boxer made him the star because he's got that build up and star. We need Kaisee to have that because he deserves it and he's good enough for it. And, you know, perhaps he should have had a little bit more on that show, like of the big build up. But we had to take our chance. He'd, like I say, been blowing everyone away, so we had to take our chance. And we come up against a very good champ who's probably going to be a world champion. So lost a narrow decision. Let's learn off it. Let's move forward. Plenty of good fighters in this gym who have lost close decisions and gone on to be better fighters. It's where you get to. It's, you know, we don't worry too much about single results. If you had 3 or 4 results on the trot like that, that'd be a worry. But we don't worry about a single result. It's boxing. 50-50 fights genuinely mean they can go 50-50. So you just move on and become better, and that's what Kaisee's planning on doing.
Similar sort of thing with Shakan as well. I remember when he suffered his first defeat to Craig Richards, he kind of said, look, my confidence hasn't been knocked, I'm ready to push on. He's had this fight with Dan Aziz, good fight there, but again, a losing effort for him. But Shakan's someone who's ready to kind of progress as well.
Yeah, well, again, we just take them as learning fights. Eggington's the best example. You have a loss, you don't get too worried about it, and, you know, you move on, you improve. If you don't move on and improve, then you're not going anywhere. So you've got to move on and improve. There's a reason why there's only been a handful of undefeated fighters in history who retired undefeated, because it's not easy to do. It's almost impossible. So accept that in boxing there's going to be losses, learn off them and become better fighters. Don't worry about it. If you let one loss break you, then you were never built for boxing anyway. So yeah, Shaq, as you say, he had quite a hard loss to Craig and come back and, you know, had some great performances. He had a close loss to Dan Aziz. Same with Kaisee. Shaq and Kaisee have both fought guys that have been stopping everyone and pushed them hard. Pushed them hard. So, like, you know, like Johnny Nelson scored it for Kaisee in that fight. Yeah. We didn't. We scored it for Dalton, just about. But there was, you know, respected people who scored it for Kaisee. You know, so being in that home corner and having that extra 10 or 12 rounder to get you perfect is sometimes the difference between winning and losing in tough fights. But you can't have it all in a perfect world. You've got to take your chances sometimes, especially when you're from a small gym with no real connections, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, when the lads got on Channel 5 when that deal was going, you see how they shone, and like with that push behind them, the world was their oyster. Yeah. When you're in the away corner, when you're taking fights, you've got to fight that bit harder, and against really good kids, sometimes you don't get it, but it's no reason not to do it. If you shy away from it because everything's not in your favour, then you haven't got the attitude of a boxer or a boxing team anyway. So you've got to take them fights and make the most of them and find the silver linings, even if they don't go your way, if you know what I mean.
Jon, is that the situation now? Hennessy had that deal with Channel 5, that's now gone to Wassam, and so the fighters here who've signed with Hennessy, especially in the West Midlands, have to find those fights over at Sky and get in the mix really now to put themselves out there.
Yeah, you've got to take your chances. Mick works with Sky quite closely, but you've still got to take your chances now. Like when Mick got the Channel 5 deal, our lads were getting the exact right push with the promoter firmly behind them, and that was the difference. When that was happening, we went unbeaten as a gym for a whole year because we had the promoter giving us everything. As it is, Mick's working with another company and stuff like that, so some people are pushing one way, other people are pushing another. It's a hard fight. Sometimes you get the decision, sometimes you don't. That is the difference at the top level. If you've got that extra little push, that is the difference. And, you know, but you can't always have it. You know, people like Joe Gallagher. Joe had a time where everything was pushed his way because he was absolutely flying, and like his gym was practically unbeatable. Then he has a time where he calls promoters for what he sees. They're not happy with him. Joe don't give a fuck. He says what he thinks. All of a sudden, you're not getting that exact same 100% push. You're still getting a push, and all of a sudden, a 1 point loss goes your way instead of going the other way. And it's the advantage of being firmly in the promoter's plans, or being like, well, let's see what happens. That's what happens. It can happen to anyone, and but you got to get on with it. It's no good worrying about it. If you worry about it, you'll never do anything. You have to take your chances and get on with it, and you have to say to the lads, if it doesn't go right, don't worry, we've got a plan. Yeah. And that's all you have to do.
Got a couple of things away from the gym here. First of all, don't know if you saw the video of Kell Brook, not in the best of states. He's come out and put a statement, but a fighter who said himself, I think it was on Boxing Media, that he felt lost after retiring from the sport. A bit of a sad situation, but looking to get that help, Kell is.
Yeah, he's come out and apologised, and I think, why should he have to? If he wants to speak to his family in private, that's fair enough. He shouldn't have to apologise to anyone. Everyone has bad times. You don't have to apologise for them. You should just people should rally round. People should say, well, we're here if you need it. I'm glad that he has, because that's kind of acknowledging I've got to do something, but he doesn't have to apologise to anyone. He's a man who's having his own little issues and his own troubles. If he wants to speak to his family in private, fine, but, this whole kind of, I've got to explain on myself on social media, fuck them, fuck them. Because they're the same people who'll knock him every chance they get, and they're sitting there expecting an apology. Fuck them, you know what I mean? Cal's a good guy, and he's going to battle his way through. The good thing out of this is he's a fighter, and he's got good people around him. His family are good people. The Ingalls won't forget him when he's retired. And he's got good people around him, so hopefully he finds that way, because, things happen in boxing and in life that can get on top of people, and they need help and they need support. They don't need judgment. They don't need social media. They don't need to worry about what people think. Fuck what people think. As long as people around you are okay, and it's like, he's a guy who trained for 20 odd years, gone out, got a bit drunk and partied a little bit. Not my kind of thing, but who's to say that knocking back 20 points of lager ain't as bad as what he did? And who's to judge anyone? It's help people, don't judge them. But Kell knows he's got good people around him. Like I say, his family and the Ingalls won't abandon him. They'll be there to help, and there's plenty of other people in boxing who will be ready to help. You know what I mean? So hopefully this is the catalyst to get that help and make him feel good about himself again, like he was when he's boxing, because there's not a lot of support for boxers, and it's such a high. People forget, for every high there's a low. So when you're flying high as a champion boxer and it's suddenly not there, you know, it can be quite shattering for people. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, let's hope that he gets exactly what he needs and he gets back to his own self that he feels good about.
Well said there, John. If we rewind back to when I was last here, I was privileged to see Savannah Marshall get some sparring in. You were there in the corner for her fight with Claressa Shields. Didn't go her way in that fight either, but she's got a rematch clause. Do you expect to see her maybe get that rematch clause, and do you think she can make those adaptations to beat someone like Claressa?
Well, Savannah Marshall's a ex-world champion and world-class fighter. Claressa Shields is exactly the same and something special in my opinion. But being in the ring and having a real good fight with an absolute world-class person, that shows what Savannah Marshall is and what she can do. Of course, she can make the adjustments. She's a world-class fighter. We've seen fighters get knocked out cold down the years. Lennox Lewis, easy example. Come back, make the adjustments, and beat people that nobody thought they could. So, of course, Savannah Marshall can. Whether she does or not, that's up to Savannah and Peter. I was just privileged enough to be helping them in the corner because they're good people. But, you know, world-class fighters can do what normal people can't because we've seen it. When boxers have been knocked out and you're like, oh, they're finished, and then they come back and beat the guy in the very next fight. They do superhuman things, you know what I mean? And Savannah Marshall's a world-class fighter, but Claressa Shields is good. Oh, she's very, very good. And she's an expert at what she does. She's got them 2-minute rounds, like, masterfully down to perfection. So it's going to take something special to beat her. But that's how you become a great fighter. By not shying away from something that needs a big effort or something special. By finding the way to do it. That's how you become a great fighter. Randolph Turpin didn't become a great fighter by not beating Sugar Ray Robinson. Lloyd Hunnigan is remembered for that upset against Don Curry. If he didn't find a way to do it, he would have been just a good European level fighter who had his try, like a lot of other guys before him. That's what Savannah's got to do. She's a world champion. She's already reached the heights. To reach those elite heights, she's got to find a way to do it, and that's what her and Peter have got to do, and that's what good fighters do. So let's see, and hopefully they'll have me back, and because it was great working with them. Really enjoyed it, and nice people. But yeah, Claressa Shields is a special talent, but getting with them special talents, it's an honour anyway to be fighting them and having good fights with them. Nobody's going to remember knocking over a journeywoman. Nobody's going to remember that. Savannah will, if the rematch doesn't come off, Savannah in 10, 20 years' time will be telling people about fighting Claressa Shields. She won't be talking about knocking someone over in 2 rounds who won half, lost half. That's what the memories are there for. When she spent the money from her fights and when she's too old to fight anymore, she'll be talking about fights like that, and she'll have more of them kind of fights. When you finish boxing, the memories are what you got left. If you've spent a career beating people you know you can beat, you ain't got much to talk about. People will talk about that forever, and it'll be a feather in a cap forever, you know. And now if she can go back and beat her and force a trilogy, then she puts herself on a level that very few get to, and that's what her aim's got to be. She's done everything else. She's won world titles and that. Now she's got to aim for that elite level and beating somebody who people don't believe she can beat, and I think she can.
Well, John, I pushed you. You pushed for time, and I pushed you for a lot more than maybe we expected. Thank you so much for speaking to Seconds Out. Much appreciated, sir.
Oh, thanks for the support. Anytime, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thank you.